In November 2006, Justin Vernon was a musician going nowhere. He'd moved with longtime friends from Wisconsin to Raleigh, North Carolina to be part of the scene there, dreaming like so many young musicians of living a life in music. Instead, what he found were creative conflicts, financial chaos, and physical distress. The glandular fever he developed and the accompanying liver problems and the pneumonia paralleled his band's downward spiral, as well as his problems with online gambling. He was out of work and soon out of his band. It was all crashing down around his head. He threw his things in his car and went home. Sort of. Vernon's family owned a cabin in northwestern Wisconsin, and that's where he ended up. Maybe the most important thing he brought with him was a song. It was called Flume, and it would serve as his compass as much as the familiar Wisconsin snow and the sense of being home. He had written it in a few hours while still living in Raleigh. It was a departure from his previous style, especially vocally. Unlike his previous baritone, this explored soaring falsettos. Playing on an old Sears catalog guitar from the 1960s, bought on eBay from an elderly Texas widow, Flume is the perfect introduction to what would emerge as the album For Emma Forever Ago. Sparse, intimate, warm, introspective. The next pivotal moment came with the choral texture at the start of Lump Sum. Lacking a creative spark and with no intention of writing much music, Vernon set about doing chores around the cabin, clearing land and helping his father with unfinished projects around the property. Then an idea started to form in his head, directionless, amorphous. Finally, he set about giving it shape. When he recorded it, it was the kickstart of what would become an intensely creative time. Beginning in a haze of laziness and exhaustion, he would finish his 3-month stint in the cabin, putting in 16 and even 20-hour days, tirelessly working to finish the body of work that would finally come to define his musical identity. The result is what Justin Vernon has described as an excavation, where he brought up the unresolved aspects of his past to the surface where they were consumed in the oxygen of the present. Rarely on a record do you get such focused catharsis. But rarely does a songwriter get such a focusing environment. The cold, the repetitive days, the simplicity of survival, hunting for food, keeping warm, cooking, and the cavernous space for thought, which our 21st century so readily deprives us of. If you've ever had that hypnotic sensation of staring into a fire on a cold night when there's literally nothing else around, that is something like the sensation of listening to For Emma Forever Ago. But in it is also contained that sense of renewal, of energy returning in new shapes and guises. There is a rhythm both to the tracks and to the album as a whole. It is the understated smile, the confident look that doesn't need our attention but demands it anyway. Much has been argued back and forth about the mythology of Bon Iver's inception. Was it really the romantic desolation which we imagine our primitive selves yearning for? Was it simply a place where an artist could be alone to gather his thoughts? Did the shroud of winter, the muted footfalls on snowy ground somehow translate into the haunting textures and open unfulfilled harmonies? One of the wonders of art is that perfection lies in integrity, not in virtuosity, not in excellence, not in the superficial calling cards that we label talent. What we seem to greedily desire from the artists in our midst is nothing less than their bared souls. We hunger for the heavy emotional lifting, those pure cutting moments that can join our own joys, our own despairs, our triumphs and failures intermingling with theirs. When the artist cries out, we hear and feel our own catharsis. And so again we return to that voice. Justin Vernon's falsetto isn't like the crooning highs of the 60s, of the Four Seasons and the Beach Boys. It is Allen Ginsberg's howl. It is the primal cry of hope in the face of hopelessness, of the faintest flicker in the darkest night. The guitar isn't intricate, not lush, not warm. It is the plodding footsteps, the insistent habitual stride that leads us from A to B. The equipment on hand was extremely limited, and the sonic palette of For Emma Forever Ago embraces it unapologetically. There's an old saying that a great song is still a great song even with just a single voice and a guitar. The rest is just decoration. Skinny Love, what passes for the commercial single on this album, passes this test with flying colours. Here's a live version recorded almost 15 years after it was first written, and you can still hear the emotion that first forced the song from Justin Vernon's fingers and lips. It's like we've been removed across time and space, and we're sat with him in the cabin, by the fire, and we can hear that transition from defeat, those first steps toward freedom, toward victory, toward that elusive goal at the heart of every artist, to have integrity, to just be genuine. The greatness of Bon Iver isn't a secret hidden in the lyrics or the music or the production. It isn't a mystery waiting to be discovered. It's in the simple fact that nothing is hidden.
My